Well, we're talking, I think.
We don't want to wear them anyways.
Yeah, well, we need.
I look better with a mask, but you know.
So we have about 20 minutes for a Q&A.
Yeah.
So if anybody has
Who's got a
questions,
question?
they want to raise their hands, go ahead and move.
I got a question, Jerry. Who's on the phone?
Spam.
Yes, sir. How about you in the hat?
So, how did you guys get started on doing this tour? What prompted you to get together and do this starting back in April?
Well, we can start. Adrian moved to Nashville a few years ago, and for a number of reasons, I produced a movie called Take Me to the River, and we came through Nashville, and I was also worked on a record there, so we were having dinner at least once a year. And somehow our conversation would very often go back to how much we loved this thing on YouTube of Rome 1980.
Live in Rome,
And
1980.
we kind of felt like we should recreate this if we could possibly do it. And so we meet up every year and be like, we really should do that. And then we started, and then the next time was like, how are you going to do this?
Yeah.
And then I introduced the members of the rest of the band here, except for Julie, who plays with Adrian. And I said, I think I've got the people to do it. And one of the great things about it is they know who wants to share a room with whom, and they know how to work
And they played together for 10 years, and
all of these
and
things.
they started as a band really playing Talking Heads music. That's what got them started when they were called Turquoise. That's who we're talking about. Now they're called Cool Cool Cool.
Yes. And so we went, they were playing at the Exit Inn in Nashville, and I flew out, and Adrian and I went, and after about 5 minutes,
3 songs.
Adrian goes, this is going to work. And so we did a rehearsal the next day at SIR, and it was very funny. We were doing it, and we go like, oh, we need a bathroom. And we went out, and there was like a crowd in the hallway.
At the rehearsal place.
At the rehearsal place, all with their ears like at the crack of the door, like, what is going on in there?
And one of them said something like, I've never heard Talking Heads before. You guys are really good. We're like,
Yeah, so I think we knew, and then of course COVID came.
yeah,
So-
because we had planned it for 2020 to be the 40th anniversary of Remain in Light. That was the whole idea to begin with, apart from the idea that we both felt like the world really needed this kind of band and this kind of music now. That's what I would always say to Jerry. I'd say, wherever I go and I'm touring, people will say, hey, you got to do something with the Talking Heads again, you know. I'm like, well, yeah, I'd like to, but I don't think that's going to happen that way, but, you know.
And our last show we played was the Hardly Strictly Music Festival, which is a free festival in Golden Gate Park. And there were 55,000 people there. And there truly was like this wave of joy that just kind of washed out from the stage over. And it was palpable, and everybody was there. It was like, I don't know what that was, but it was so wonderful. So that's what we want to bring tonight. You know?
Yeah.
Bring
Especially wonderful for him because he didn't get to tour for a lot of years. He was so busy producing great records. And when we started again, I just felt so good for Jerry because I thought, you know, he's back, he's playing live, the music that he made, and it's just such a great thing to be around. So it's a very happy, joyful kind of thing to be doing this. And, you know, it's a big, big band, and it's, you know, it's not an easy thing to take around, but we're trying to make it work out as many places as we can. Next question? Okay.
I still think, and I think a lot of us do think, Stop Making Sense, the tour was just mind-blowing. And I've always wondered how you got to that production of music from your history in Heads.
Well, I think that the first thing is to start with the band, and why one of the reasons we're doing this is as great as Stop Making Sense is, it's so much about lighting, staging, and I think it's brilliant. I mean, look, I'm extremely proud of that, but there was a looseness and a freshness of the Remain in Light tour that, and in fact, even the fact that we played like all being in a line, the way like Keith Sonny on Day is, and we had 2 bass players, that there were moments when both sides of the stage went off on their own jam, and it was a little bit like Charles Ives and having 2 bands marching towards each other. And so I always felt like, as great as Stop Making Sense is, the world also ought to know about this because it was different. But how we got to Stop Making Sense is Adrian went off to become the lead singer and join King Crimson. and
And the guitar.
and the guitar player. But that other guy who sits down.
Yeah, that other guy.
And thinks he's in the driver's seat, but.
He was in the driver's seat, I was out front.
Yeah, and so Alex joined, and it just got a little more, well, let's have risers, let's not have two bass players. So it became less chaotic, it became more absolutely defined. But I think that when we started talking about it, I was still wistful for, and there's also something about the first time you try and do it, rather than the time that you perfected it, so to speak. And I think they have a different life to themselves, so that's why I'm excited to be doing this too. There's a question over here.
Yeah, who else has a question? Yes.
I want to ask a question. Have you guys seen the Start Making Sense cover band, and what do you think of those guys?
Actually, Julie plays in that cover band. Start Making Sense. That's why when our first bass player left the band, I said, well, I know the bass player to get, because Julie already knew all the material perfectly. She's worked out perfect for the band.
We're seeing both of their shows here in Colorado.
Yeah, I've never seen them, but Julie seems to really enjoy it. Of course, I mean, she's loving this. This is really what she wants to do. But she likes both.
And as a follow-up question, do you guys still have a relationship with David?
Yes, yeah.
I don't see David hardly ever unless he comes into Nashville, but Jerry has a relationship.
Yeah. It's one of these things that we have dinner together when I'm in New York, and if there's some business to talk about, we talk about it. It's not the sort of thing like how you're doing every week and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's typical though, I think. That's the one thing about being in a situation like being in a band that's touring the world together. You get so close, you're family, you're like in a bubble, and everything else is outside of that. And then you go home, and you don't still talk to each other much because you're on to the next thing, and it's kind of sad, except when you see each other again, and then it's like you're just mid-sentence.
I sort of liken it to people I went to college with, is I'll meet up with them, and it's as if a day never passed, but that doesn't mean that we talk to each other all the time. And same thing with Christina.
Just like you say that the Rome show that you guys talk about, that's astounding.
It's an astounding.
That's the blueprint for this show. We're not doing it exactly the same, but we said this is what we want to achieve the spirit of. So we used the same format, and as in, for example, with that show, there were 2 songs on Remain Alive we didn't do because they felt like they were a little too down-tempo. We wanted the whole thing back then to be really upbeat, and that's what we're doing now.
Thank you.
How about you?
Yeah, just curious, who were some of the musicians that influenced you and helped you develop your style?
You.
I was more influenced by guitar players than keyboard players. I don't know, I played keyboards first in bands. And most of the time, it's like, I had taken piano lessons, but usually it's like the guitar player would just show me what the chords were or something like that. And I'm not even very good at it, of going and listening to I'm going to try and learn to play like Jimmy Smith, or I'm going to try and, I'm not good at that, I can't do that. So I kind of, at a very early age, started just sitting down and just playing the piano and sort of making things up on the spot. And that's how I brought it to. So it was interesting though that when I joined the Modern Lovers, that then I realized that I was very much that John Kell and I saw very alike about things. We both, and also Philip Glass and I, we were the only people that really liked Farfisa organs instead of Hammond organs. I mean, we like these things. So I found people that had the same sensibility, but it wasn't like I studied them. Now I look up at now I hear people like, oh God, I don't learn how to play like that, or I ought to be able to do that, or something like that. But it's good too old to do something like that, or too busy.
Next, I'm the MP, the DJ, or whatever. Yes.
Your most memorable CBGB moment?
Going to the bathroom there.
Oh, we had sex in the bathroom.
No, it was probably, we used Keys head over here.
Any insight on the set list tonight?
Well, stick around.
Well, I think it follows a little bit the progression of earlier Talking Heads music that we did in Rome through the Remain in Light. And we have inserted a song that from my solo album, Casual Gods, Rev It Up. And Adrian's doing,
Yeah, King Crimson song called
Okay,
Thela
wait.
Gingy. We decided, well, we should do one of each of our songs just to have that part of the show too. And that's the one that I chose. And I think we also do something from
Oh, yes.
Stop Making Sense.
yeah, we do, that's Stop Making Sense is from Speaking in Tongues, Slippery People. I had been playing, this actually particularly when Turquoise splintered, I had played Slippery People with Mavis Staples. There's a wonderful version of it, and I was a co-writer of it. And Turquoise had been doing it, and I thought, well, we have these two girl singers, let's do it like Mavis Staples. And, you know, and one of the great things about the show and this band is that everybody is so talented, is that Adrian and I, we do plenty, but we want everyone to shine. So everyone gets a moment. Josh is singing, and we do Slippery People, which is like a place for, Shira and Sammy to step forward and they're singing lead on it. And it's also how we keep a happy band, I think. There are certain people like, I guess in a Leonard Cohen concert, they want to hear Leonard Cohen, and they don't want suddenly the guitar player to be singing a song. But I think in this, we thought it's really good this spreading around because it's about the joy of the music.
Yeah, I was just trying to help you.
And about also everybody having a moment to express the way they think about this music. So.
My choice of Thela Gingy came from, the trio that I have, the Power Trio, played on Vancouver Island once at an acoustic guitar festival of all things, and we were the only electric band, and in fact, as soon as at one point when we played, the whole power went out. But the part of the story I want to tell you is at one point we jammed together, and we jammed on playing Thela Gingy, and all these people just got up and started banging on things and doing stuff, and we had all these, lots of parts going on. It started sounding really, really Afro kind of music, and I said later, it sounds like if Talking Heads
Did this song.
the 10-piece band would have done Thela Gingy. So it seemed like, well, we got a horn section, we've got backup singers, and we didn't even have that.
That's right, yeah.
And so it just seemed like that's a perfect vehicle. I wanted to hear it that way.
And the horns really do bring a whole new element that we've been able to arrange and also make it, unique from what we did in the past.
I just have to ask, I heard Mavis sing Slippery People, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Is it actually a single chord song? All I hear is an F sharp minor 7 in that whole song. It was brilliant.
Well, I kind of do, da, do, da.
Okay.
There are chord changes.
Okay.
All of Remain in Light is one key.
But there is things
Every
like
song.
there is a sort of modal quality to it, but where you have chords within the mode that change back and forth. But it's
When I came in,
the bridge changes.
when I came in to work on Remain in Light, every song was just one key. It was just bass and drums and maybe or a couple rhythm guitar parts or a keyboard part. But it was all just that. There was no road signs, no places that you had to change keys, and I loved the hell out of it. Because as a guitar player, it was like, whoa, I've got perfect freedom here. I can play whatever I want. I don't have to think about, it's a chord change here, or there's a chorus coming up, or any of that. So that was why it was it was a perfect day for me. I really enjoyed playing on that record.
We got about 5 minutes left, so like 2 more questions.
Have you guys listened to Fish cover Remain in Light from
Yes.
Halloween
It's
'96?
quite a few years ago I listened to it, but I thought they did a wonderful job.
I'm curious, with you guys kind of coming back to Remain in Light and bands like Fish or Widespread Panic, kind of adopting Talking Heads into some of their set lists, are there new things or new elements that they brought out that kind of excited you guys with coming back to this?
Well, I was delighted they did it, but I didn't listen to that. We didn't listen to that for this. I've sat in with both. Well, I've sat in with Trey and I've sat in with Ashman and did Life During Wartime with them. But no, I think that we just went back to the original source.
Thank you.
I don't know that music at all, but I did meet Trey once recently. In fact, our first show,
Yeah.
he came back. He was back. He was in the previous band, Oysterhead. And when he came, he wanted me to come over and meet him. And when I did, he was kind of glared at me for a minute, like, "I hate you." But then he said, that he loved the band. And he told me his favorite. I said, "Well, that's great." He said, "You've done so much stuff, and there's one band that I really loved that you did." What? The Bears. Like, the Bears? Yeah. Most people don't even know who that band is.
So he's one of your best friends.
Yeah, we love you. I write it, we talk every day.
Yeah.
One more question?
All right, last question.
Okay.
So you talked about kind of the, not so many changes in, the chord changes in Remain Light. Prior to Talking Heads, you were with Frank Zappa, right?
Yeah.
Can you kind of,
No, David Bowie and then
yeah.
Frank Zappa
Oh, okay.
before that. Yeah.
anyway, what I was getting at was, there's some very, very complex, music, lots of changes there. I'm just wondering, how do you feel about going from one to the other?
Well, when I changed from Frank's band, which was very, very complicated and very disciplined kind of music, and really it was all about learning it and playing it consistently, correctly every night, and it was really hard. 10 weeks, 3 months of rehearsals, 10 hours a day. Very difficult. I learned 5 hours of his stuff. But the next step really was I joined David Bowie's band, and David Bowie was very similar to what Talking Heads wanted from me. They just wanted someone who could play some interesting things and maybe do some solos, make some sounds, fill some things that they couldn't do on the records. And so I made that transition, and then that opened that door. And so I was already ready for that from being with David, because David would just never give me any instruction, and that's what.
Also, the period that you played with David was like, it wasn't like the Spiders from Mars where it was totally
Yes.
arranged. That he
Yes.
had moved with Brian.
Right.
You know, with Brian's influence, of course, he was
Yeah.
producing us, so it was this idea of, let's capture the moment, and one of the most important things about the band Light to Know is that we were very influenced, we were all excited by E. Zimbra from Fear of Music, and we all said, our next record, let's do more of that. And we also had realized from these cassette tapes we used to make in our rehearsal, we'd always go like, well, I love the way it came out on the record, but there's something there that we never got back. And so we were like, let's make an album where we capture it the first time we play it. And so that was when we deliberately went in to do A Band of Life without anything planned. A little bit of a scary idea, but it all worked out great. But that's why it feels so, one of the reasons it feels so fresh. And also sometimes how it was made it challenging and hard to finish, because you could go this way, you could go that way, you could do that. So, yeah.
That's what makes it such a unique record.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna have, if everybody can line up right over here.
Yep, if we get a line going.
Thank you.